Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the M4J network here on OpenTTD. Now, a couple of updates from last episode. So last time out, you will of course have seen me build Gardcity Punfingford Airport Mark II, which is so much better than Mark 1 in that there wasn't really a Mark 1, so you can kind of call this a Mark 1 if you want to. But yeah, anyway, since the big time-lapse build last time out then, I've gone and changed a couple of things. So I've upgraded the Terminal 3 airport to the large airport, the base large airport. I've also increased Terminal 2 to have 2 runways now that run side by side. T1 is still same as. I will eventually upgrade that one too to have the, is it the intercontinental, whatever the largest sized airport is, I can't remember. I've also added the new GRF that allows you to turn airports sideways. And again, I've forgotten what that's called, but all of this will be included in the updated folder as and when I release the updated map. The last thing that I added was a new airport. You might have seen it right at the start there, which is just really for planes going to and from the hangar, to try and stop the main airports getting clogged up. I'm not sure if that's going to work though, so if it doesn't work, I've kind of got it geared up to become a cargo terminal instead for cargo planes. We'll kind of cross that bridge when we come to it. I think we'll see how well that goes. But yeah, a little bit of everything today. So we start off here by building some bus terminals for T1 and T2. T3 doesn't have one yet. It might have one in the future, but I considered adding one here, but I thought might as well not bother because A, it's got the transit that links the 3 terminals together anyway, and I'm planning some upgrades for that, and B, it's got a railway station attached to it, so I didn't feel like it was necessary to actually build an extra bus terminal. But again, things change, so maybe in the future I will include one. We shall see. So here's me building these 2 bus terminals and then building some roads to connect them. Don't get too attached to what you see right now on the screen though, because it's about to get changed. The reason it's about to get changed is I was always planning on building a motorway connection between the M1, which is technically the Great North Road, and Punfingford Airport. And I end up building what's called the M11, and you'll see the M11 popping up quite a lot in today's video. Because we start off by building it here, we build it through the airport via that little road connection that I built there, so that does get moved, and then we continue westward all the way over to the Blue Lagoon Railway, and I'm trying to remember the name of the town. Actually, why am I guessing? I have, not only do I have the game open, I also had the game running, so that's probably being picked up on my microphone. Apologies if it has been. So yeah, the M11, so what's that? That's the Gardcity Orbital. So it runs north of Dronnington and Tenfing Bridge. It also runs, it runs through some really heavy metropolized areas, which is great for linking up towns and cities, which was part of this whole motorway project to begin with. So from the airport, it continues west. It runs under Eddingbourne, briefly alongside the Great Northern Main Line. It then runs north of Frondinghatton. Yeah, Frondinghatton. Then it runs underneath Feward and Fort Flatbourne. Some of these town names are awful, by the way. Very briefly turns south, runs down towards the lake near Dronnington and Tenfing Bridge. Then it runs across the northern side of Drenston, south of Slinding Hall, runs under the West Winds line through a tunnel. And then at the moment, it terminates at Little Flahingford, and it joins another main road that I haven't properly built yet. But that's not too far away from Condhead, which is the main hub of the Blue Lagoon Railway. So there's plenty of roadways, plenty of road getting built, shall we say. Plenty of road. And I'm very, very happy with how this is starting to look now. There are times when I'm building it, you might notice there's some pauses, and I'm kind of looking at it thinking, is this smart, what I'm doing here? Is this actually the right thing to do? But then I kind of go along and do a little bit more, and I think, yeah, actually this does work out quite well. And what you're seeing me build here is actually part of that. So right now I'm building this motorway that runs through Punfingford. And you can kind of see it's threading the needle. And the motorway junctions here aren't the best I've ever built, but I still think they serve a good purpose. They work very well. I actually introduced some coach services that run between Punfingford and Gard Lake, both terminals. You'll see those get added shortly as well. And I also add a new rail service. This one was a little left field, actually, because we start off at Gardcity St Elizabeth and we use the West Winds line up to Flaham Junction, and then we use the cross-country line from Flaham Junction to Don'tborough, and then from Don'tborough we run along the Great Northern Main Line to Gardcity Punfingford Terminal 1. This is actually an extension of the service that used to run from St Elizabeth to Flaham Junction. It was an all-stopper. It continues to be an all-stopper, but now it runs from Flaham all the way up to Gardcity Punfingford T1. And the cross-country service, or the cross-region service, sorry, that operates along that line as well, that's had 2 of its stops taken out between Flaham Junction and Don'tborough. It now stops between Don'tborough and Flaham. Again, actually, why am I guessing? I can just tell you. So, originally, the 3 stations on that little branch are Bruntbourne West, Penville Valley, and Renningville South. And I'm now going to make it, in fact, I'm literally going to do it on screen as I'm talking to you. Obviously, you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway, otherwise I'll forget. I'm going to remove both Bruntbourne West and Renningville South from the orders list, so the cross-region services will only stop at Penville Valley. My Discord is doing cartwheels in the background behind me as well, so apologies if you can hear that. Where am I? There's Punfingford, there's Renningville South, so we'll get rid of that one. And there's Bruntbourne West, so we'll get rid of that one. And then we'll do the same thing on the return. So there's Bruntbourne West. And there's Renningville South. Done. So there will be other services that will use this line. Right now it's just this all-stopper between GSE and Punfingford. But I'm really liking this. And I was going to use the bay platforms on the east side of Punfingford to terminate this service as well. And I could still end up doing that, but right now I've just got it running into the slow platforms on the east side of the station. Although saying... Actually, no, it does work. It does work. Fair enough. I was going to say, saying that, it looks like it might not work, but I think it will. I think it should be fine. But yeah, this was part of something I've been wanting to do for a little while anyway, and rebuilding the airport station gave me an opportunity to actually do it. So I thought, why not? As I said last episode, there will be a lot more services now terminating at the airport. Not so much running from Gardcity now, because I think we've exhausted that option. Although saying that, I might still have one that runs from Bartholomew Square up to... Again, I just all the words in the English language. Up to Punfingford, that was it. And then terminate there. But yeah, the reason I didn't use the terminating platforms, bay platforms, is because, again, this is an issue I've got with scheduled dispatch. We've been talking about it on the Discord. I think it's starting to be addressed. There's a couple of other things I've noticed where maybe I'm not the only one who's had the problem, but there's things where I've mentioned it in an episode, or I've mentioned it on the Discord, and then it's actually been fixed in an update. So, I mean, that's great. I'm not complaining. I should really myself go on and actually report these things, but hey ho. The one I'm really annoyed about though is scheduled dispatch, because just out of nowhere, I've been watching the network for the last week, and it works fine. You know, trains get dispatched as and when they're supposed to, no real issues. And then out of nowhere, the game will just decide. So, for example, Gardcity St George to Warnbridge Airport, that service, the Great Northern service, it will just decide, do you know what? I'm going to spit every single train on that service out of the depot at the exact same time. So, for an hour, pretty much, the platforms at GSG were rammed with trains going to Warnbridge. That, to me, just doesn't sound right. That's not how scheduled dispatch is supposed to work. And I went on and checked the timetable, in case there was an issue there. it claimed to be running normally, and I went and checked the scheduled dispatch window, and that claimed to be running normally. Yet it still spits out trains at an alarming rate. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on there, but I don't find that particularly reassuring that it is doing that. But I just don't know what's going on with that. I do not know. Right, so the big topic that I want to talk about today is splitting this map up into regions. So obviously Punfingford is now a region, like the area around Punfingford is now a region. Greater Gardcity is a region. And this is mainly for bus, air and water traffic. Not just bus, but road traffic in general, so trucks as well. Now the lines are a little blurred. I made this quite specific blurring, shall we say. I made this specific blurring for when people claim road management contracts, where you can in theory operate outside of your region, but only with the permission of whoever owns the region that you're wishing to operate into. So for example, if you operate within Greater Gardcity and you want to move into the Wenfingfield area, to run a coach service or a mail service, whatever it might be, sure, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. The roads are linked after all, so go for it. But I do ask that you actually get that cleared with whoever owns that region to begin with, just so everyone is all on the same page and same wavelength and things like that. One reason I am splitting the map up into regions is to help with air traffic. Excuse me, air traffic. Let's try that again. So right now, Punfingford Airport, we've got aircraft travelling down to the south, to the north, to the east, to the west, all over the place. But there's also other little airports that could potentially be built. So it's a case of, operating within regions. So if you have Punfingford, that area is your region. Obviously Punfingford will be your base airport. There will be other airports in that region that will be multiple sizes. So small, medium, large. And depending on your tier reward, you'll be able to operate a small, medium or large airport. If you've got Punfingford, you'll have all three terminals plus the cargo terminal if that ends up being a cargo terminal. Otherwise, it will be just an excess terminal, shall we say. The more I think about this idea of using it as a hangar airport, the less I like it, to be honest. But the idea is to make it so that the other three terminals, the only traffic really is aircraft running to and from the runway. And not going to the depot as well. Although if the berths in the airport are full, then the planes do go to the depot anyway, and that's where it kind of falls apart. But again, scheduled dispatch is kind of screwing me right now, so I end up with a lot of aircraft just sitting around doing nothing, which is how they end up losing money. So I'm not a huge fan of that, so we'll have to see what I can do about that. But yeah, the other big thing that regions cover is road. So we have someone who has a road management contract right now. They operate around Flaham Junction, and this is where I need help with dividing the map up into regions. So we need small regions, medium regions and large regions. Greater Gardcity is probably going to be a medium-sized region, believe it or not. It could potentially become a large one. It leans more towards a large one. But what I want to do is go around the entire map and just split it up into regions. And they will probably be named after the biggest town or the most important town in that region. So, for example, Wenfingfield, which is the first big station on the Western Reaches North, that will probably be the hub town of that region. And I don't know how big it's going to stretch yet, but it will be like, I don't know, Wenfingfield Shear or something like that. I don't know. Name suggestions for regions might be nice as well, but we'll have to see what kind of ideas we get first before we go ahead with that idea. Wenfingfield's actually shrinking, believe it or not. I think because I updated the new GRF for houses, and I know that people have said sometimes it causes towns and cities to shrink. So we've got loads of roads that don't have any buildings on at the moment. There's also the fact that I built loads of roads that don't have buildings on as well. I imagine as more services start getting used again, that will pick up again. But yeah, that's one. And then we've also got, Bar City as well is going to be its own area, so that's no biggie. Punfingford, I don't actually think will be the hub town of that region. I actually think that, I mean, there are far bigger ones in and around the area, and also Honingville isn't far away, and you've also got, I mean, Chunnington's bigger than Punfingford, so that could potentially be it. Or, I mean, there's loads. There are loads. This might actually end up being a small region. I'm just looking at it right now. There's kind of a big circle of towns and cities that could become their own little region. But yeah, that's why I need your help, because I can't decide. I keep looking at it, and every time I look at it, I think of something different. So let me know, please. We'll have some discussion. Sound like I was begging then. No, not quite. But we'll have a discussion on Discord. I'll post some screenshots, and we'll start looking theoretically about how we can split up this this map. Overall, though, the idea is to kind of, I mean, I was about to list a number of, like, how big do I want this to be. But personally, I'm not that fussed. It'll end up being however big it ends up being. That's just what's going to happen, I think. Yeah, so the regions will then govern water, air, and sea. No, that is water. Water, air, and road. Rail is always going to be different. Rail will run through multiple regions, and it's all to do with routes. So, you know, the Great Northern Route is one franchise. The Grand Northern is another franchise. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing I forgot to mention. I've started running services on Grand Northern now. So I have one service that runs from... let me just find it. There it is. So I've got one now that runs from GSG to Gronwell Superior, and it stops at, along the way, Gardcity Punfingford Airport T1, and then it also stops at Beffingway, and I think that's it for that one. So it's a two-stopper along the way. The second service, I've reintroduced the GSG to Nuthill City Centre service, and this one has a few more stops along the way. We've just transitioned into the second part of the video, by the way, which is the eye candy-ish part of the episode, before I then add the coach services in, and then go back and do some other little tweaks here and there. But yeah, the GSG to NCC service, that calls at Gardcity Punfingford Terminal 1, Warnbridge Airport, Walden Bridge Junction, Slet Hill, Beffingway, Cunfingpool, Chadborough, and then Grundhead Apollonia Airport, and then Nuthill City Centre. So a few more stops along the way. There will be more added in future. Those were just the first ones I wanted to get in. Kind of like a proof of concept, really, to see if they're viable. And they seem to be, so I'm pretty happy to continue with that. There will also be ones like Gronwell to Beffingway, Gronwell to Gardcity Punfingford Airport. Like Grand Northern spans the whole of the Grand Northern main line, but only the express services. The slow services will be operated by Trans Northern and East Coast Rail and things like that. So it's a bit more convoluted now, with different franchises operating on different routes. But I kind of like it. I like the fact these lines are going to get busy in the not too distant future. And the work we're doing at the moment to hopefully start setting up realistic looking timetables will also go towards that. Something else actually that I was considering doing was, I mean, how many trains have I got right now? I have got 1,300 and something trains. And the donut that I actually want to go through and rename every single train. So for example, if it's a class 150, it will be 150 and then, 001, something like that, and then 002, 003. And build a database where we can see every single train on the network and what franchise it's running in and what route it's operating on. It's a huge task. I'm not claiming this is going to be easy by any stretch, but one thing I want to sort of get working now is a database of every vehicle on the network and where it is and what it's doing. So even if there's a vehicle sat in the depot not doing anything, this will be really useful for that purpose specifically. So say I have an aircraft that's sitting in Punfingford hangar, not being used, and I'm looking for an aircraft to operate a new service. It might even be on the opposite side of the map. We'll set up a temporary service that will hop it from Punfingford over to, say, Bar City, and then it'll be able to operate flights out of Bar City instead. Likewise with trains, we might have a train that's sat in the cross-country depot, the cross-network depot, just north of Denston, and it might be perfect to operate a service along the northwestern franchise, shall we say, along the North Valleys route. So again, we'll set up a temporary route. Actually, something else I was going to do was start setting up routes between depots. So every depot will have a route to every other depot along the network. And then build a database of those as well, so we can see how to get it from the cross-network depot to the depot up at Honningville, get that train across, and then start operating it on northwestern services. This is probably going to be something I do in my spare time, rather than something I do as an episode, because I imagine it will just be me sat with my laptop, maybe watching the football or the F1 or something, and just going through and renaming trains, and then, you know, creating. It'll probably be, I want to make it an online accessible database as well, but I don't really know how many people would use it. But if I can integrate it into my website, that's something I would definitely like to do. But yeah, let me know what you think about that, because I think it's something really nerdy and very specific, but I think there could potentially be an audience for it. But I only really want to make it publicly accessible if I believe the public will actually access it. So if you'd rather I kept it private, then, you know, say so. If you'd rather I published it for you guys to see, say so. And we'll see what we can do. But I like the idea of having a vehicle database, just so I can keep track of what every vehicle is doing. And, you know, whether it's running or not. And then we can also use that for timetabling. So when we create timetables, we can then plug that into the database as well, and actually see which trains will be operating on the database. One thing that I think would be really cool with OpenTTD, and I have no idea if this is possible or not, but maybe some software developers can have a crack at this, is to find a way so that the game can export data to and from, or export data to a database, and then maybe import data back in as well. So we were talking about scheduled dispatch a lot, and someone, Mastertrams, was talking about creating timetables, and you know how feasible it can be to create a realistic looking timetable. And the suggestions that he had were not the same as the suggestions that I was going to pitch. So I would like it if we could have shared orders first and foremost with scheduled dispatch, and operate a realistic timetable. But I would also like it if trains didn't have to return to a depot at the end of every run. And this is where we were talking about the same thing, basically, because I know that in the morning a train gets dispatched from the depot, and unless it's a peak hours operating service, it won't go back to the depot until the evening when it's decommissioned for the night. That's what I want to replicate on this network. But right now I can't do that without using conditional orders, and I don't think conditional orders work very well with timetables. What I would like is a more advanced system that's not a grammatically correct sentence at all. I would like a more advanced system that Cities in Motion 2 used, which was you set up a schedule, and if it looks as though a vehicle that is already on the schedule is going to get back to stop number 1 before the next vehicle is dispatched from the depot, then a vehicle won't be dispatched from the depot. The vehicle that's already out on the service will run the service again. And that's what I would like. So to have a train leave the depot in the morning, run to... So I'm going to use the GWR as an example for this, because we are using the GWR as a test bed for these sorts of things right now. So say it leaves the depot. It runs to... let's say it's an express between GSP and Munfingford Paragon, just as an example. So it will leave the depot, it will run to Gardcity St. Peter, and once it reaches St. Peter, its service starts. And then it will go from GSP to Munfingford all day, and then the very last service of the day, when it arrives back at GSP, it will then run empty back to the depot. That's what I would like it to do. Or alternatively, it will start the day at Munfingford and then run to GSP. And that's something else I would like to do, is have services where it starts at one end, and then there'll be an alternative service that starts at the other end, and then they'll cross in the middle, and then that's how you get your twice hourly service, rather than it always starts at one end of the line, and then those at the other end of the line have to wait for it to do the service once before they can then catch the train into the city. That's how you get your twice hourly services in real life. You've got trains that start at Paddington and trains that start at Bristol, and then they create the service pattern. But have all this managed from like a central database would be really cool. So you can have a list of services that you want to operate, and then a depot with vehicles in, and then you can allocate vehicles to services, and then every time a vehicle is needed, one will be dispatched from the depot. That's what I would like to be able to do, and that's basically how it works in real life. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's the basic principle of they'll have a list of stock available in the depot, or the motive power depot or train care facility or whatever it might be. They'll have a list of stock that's in that facility at any one time. Then they'll have a list of services being operated that day, and then they'll choose the relevant stock to go and run that service, and then it'll be dispatched as required. If more stock is needed, then they'll dispatch it too. So the only thing in theory that changes during the day is the crew that operates the train. The train itself remains consistent. That's what I would like. That's how I want this network to run. But right now we are very, very much limited by what the game can do, in that there's no way to export to a database, there's no way to import from a database, and there's also no way to have a depot allocated a schedule rather than a vehicle. So you do end up having to use shared vehicles, and you do end up relying on scheduled dispatch, which isn't always reliable. So again, I don't know how feasible it is to create any of this that I've been talking about, but if you're a budding software developer and you would like to have a go at something that could potentially broaden your skills and make something here that works, get in touch. We'll talk about it. Contact me on Discord, join our Discord community, contact me on Reddit, comment on the YouTube video, wherever it might be, and let's have a chat about it. I would love to be able to learn to do this myself, but I've got so much on at the moment, you know, with I've got so much on at the moment. I've got brand new series coming to this channel. I've got video projects that I'm working on now for racing games, and I really don't have the time to sit down and learn that level of coding. But I know there are some very, very talented coders out there who could potentially use this as a project. So thought I might as well outsource it and see where we go with it. And I'm just to be clear, I'm not complaining too much about scheduled dispatch. There are things that it does that I'm not a fan of, but it is still an incredible patch for the game. I'm still very grateful for it. I just wish it worked a little more often, or at least threw up error messages as to why it's not working correctly. That would be nice, because the other problem I had, which I was talking about at the start of the video with using the bay platforms at Punfingford Airport, was out of nowhere, all the platforms filled up and all the siding platforms filled up as well. And I have no idea how that happened. I literally blinked and there were 6 trains sat in the station, which isn't good. I'm sure you'll agree that's not good. It's not preferable, shall we say. So not quite sure what happened there. Again, I checked the timetables. There didn't seem to be any immediate issues. There's no conditional orders or anything like that, so it's not like there was something like that threw it off kilter. I have absolutely no idea why those trains did that, but it's very annoying that they did. So maybe there's a little glitch in the patch still that hasn't been discovered yet. Again, I'm nowhere near skilled enough to be able to go through and find it myself. All I can do is report the problem. The problem I have, though, with reporting problems is normally if you're reporting a problem like this, you need to be able to state when the problem occurs. And because I leave this game running a lot, the only time I notice when something's gone wrong is when it comes up saying train X can't find a path to continue. And then I see suddenly that the station's full. So I can't isolate when the issue occurs. I only notice it's happened after it's happened. So I'm not very good. I'm not much use at reporting these issues, which is one of the reasons why I don't do it, because I know from first-hand experience when someone reports an issue with some software and they can't tell you when the problem occurred and you can't replicate it, it's very, very difficult to fix something when you're not even entirely sure it exists. So if anyone else has downloaded a version of my maps, though, and has noticed the problem themselves, please do report it, and we'll hopefully get a fix for it. But again, I'm not complaining about the JDR patch at all. I think it's great. I am looking for ways to expand how I use it, because I think it's great. But it's just little things like that sometimes. It kind of demotivates me to continue playing sometimes as well, and I really don't want that to happen. So, yeah, it's a minor inconvenience. If there's a way around it, believe me, I will use it. But for now, it's just a minor inconvenience. Let's say it like that. Right, I'm trying to work out how in sync my audio is with my video. Somehow my audio is ahead of my video again. So I'm actually recording this in Audacity, but I'm playing it on Premiere at the same time to try and get it synced. Actually, no, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Yeah, no, I think it's fine. The way I've done it, I think it's fine. Hopefully there's no glitches in the audio this time, though, because, again, that happened last week, which was very, very irritating. And I just, again, I mean, we talk about software that suddenly starts misbehaving. Adobe worked fine for me, Adobe 20, and then Adobe 21 comes out, and suddenly I can't record voiceovers anymore. So that's annoying. And, I mean, I've had people say use OBS instead and record a black screen and just put the video over the top. That's great, except I don't want to record video to just have audio. So that's why I use Audacity. And it's free, Audacity. OBS is free too, of course, but Audacity is something I've used a lot. I used it way back at the start of my channel. That's how I did all my voiceovers. And I used to use it for the XVI podcast as well. I've used it for creating voiceovers for racing games videos. It's just really, really handy. It's really, really handy to use. Also, by the way, if you haven't checked out racing games recently, you might recognize someone's voice in the last couple of videos they've uploaded. Anyway, so we're coming towards the end of the video now. I'm going to explain what's going on here then. So this is the M11. It's a branch of the M1. Again, the naming regulations for motorways in the UK, there's kind of a derivative system going on. So like the A2 branches off the M2, things like that. What used to be the A1 is now the A1001 that runs through where I live. But then you've got roads like the A414 that starts and stops all over the place, and the A2 starts and stops all over the place. And you can kind of see where the motorways have taken over the A roads in places. I'm not going to fully replicate the way we do things here in the UK with this, but I will say that the M11 is a derivative of the M1, so the logical thing was just to turn it into 11 rather than like 1A or something like that. And at this point here, the M11 terminates. So I think it's got 12 junctions, not including where it meets up with the M1. It's got 12 other junctions. This is junction 12, where it ends. And right now it ends at this roundabout, where it links up with another motorway, which has yet to be named, nor has its junctions been allocated. But this is kind of a... I'm trying to think what it's inspired by. It's kind of inspired by where the A1 meets the M25, where the A1M meets the M25, because after the M25 it just becomes the A1. But I mean, yeah, as I said prior, roads aren't really my thing. I've been building a lot of roads in the network right now because I want to try and get more road traffic. The one thing I would love is to see these full of cars and buses and trucks and all sorts of things. But right now, it's just empty roads. I keep saying as well. Sorry, I keep saying But yeah, we've got the two coaches that operate out of Punfingford now that use part of the M1 and the M11. We've got the coach to Warnbridge. I thought there was another one. That's why I hesitated then. But I think there's only one coach that uses the M1 up as far as Warnbridge. I was going to add one to Beffingway, but I really don't think that's good. I think that will take like 2 hours real time almost to do that journey, so it doesn't seem worth it. Excuse me. It doesn't seem worth it. So I think I'm going to not worry about that. But the good thing about having these motorways is we could have a coach service from Warnbridge to Beffingway and little things like that. I like building these roads as well because I get to have a little bit of fun building these junctions, try and make each one different to the last. So we've got some where, it's just a basic slip road system. We got some where there's like spirals going on and there's roads ducking over and under each other. We got ones with huge roundabouts. We've got ones where it goes over the junction. We've got ones where it goes under the junction. We've got ones where, the junction goes on for miles. We've got ones where it's tightly compact. And then we got ones where roads just end, which are kind of my favourite ones, actually. I like the roundabout ones, and I like the ones where one road meets another and they just end. So where the M1 meets the M11, for example, also where the M1 meets the Gardcity Orbital, ones like that, I think that's really fun to try and build. And I even quite like them. Again, the more I look at it, I kind of liking the one that runs to Punfingford here because it's subtle, It's not huge slip roads and elaborate roadways or anything like that. It's just simple, keeping it nice and simple, and it functions, and that's the main thing. Plus, working in small spaces, trying to cram them in there too. So that one alongside the waterway there, that was nice. And this one here with you know, the M11 is 2 tiles or 2 height above the one below. So you have a little roundabout in the middle. I like it. I think it looks really cool. And of course, update the slip roads so that they are A roads and not motorway, because you don't want a bus going around these junction approaches on 2 wheels, because that would be a little bit scary. There will be projects in the future to link up more towns and cities to these junctions. For now, though, I've just linked up the nearest towns just to make it quick and easy for me. Anyway, that does it for this episode, guys. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. And of course, if you're enjoying the series so far. Like I said, let's get some chat going on Discord. I will post some screenshots of the map and we'll start working to split it up. I think what I might do is do an overall height map and then let people sort of download that and then add their own little drawings in as to where they think different boundaries should be and kind of go from there. I think that'll work quite well. But yeah, let me know on the Discord what you think, all that good stuff. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. And until next time, I will see you soon.